It was February 9th is when the call came in, about a little after 5 in the morning. I was riding seat on truck 19 that day.
The truck crew, we were sleeping. We didn't know it at the time, but the engine was already out on a medical call.
We had just got back from a call earlier that morning, and I was exhausted. I went back to bed still wearing my uniform. That's how tired I was.
All units clear on your response. Commercial fire, Gilbert, Stratford Ridge Department, Division 19's first to win. We've received multiple calls.
Once the tones went off, came out, got dressed, and drove over to Stratford Ridge Apartments.
Everyone should be out of the apartment. Engine 19, Engine 3, Engine 5, Engine 55, Truck 19, Truck 4, Rescue 5, Squad 55, Battalion 2, Battalion 3, and clear on all your responses.
Hearing a couch on fire, I'm thinking probably in the living room.
I remember getting in the engine and hearing that there's multiple callers indicating that this was a working fire. And luckily we all ran to the rigs, got in there quick, and got out of the house quick.
All incoming units have agreed to emergency.
It's just probably 3 minutes from here. It's really just one turn before you get to the apartment complex that we're extremely familiar with.
Right as we pulled up on scene, we saw that there was some fire coming out of the window of the first floor apartment at the second breeze.
I remember looking up and seeing fire next to the window. I don't think I ever looked directly into the fire room as we passed.
My lieutenant took command over the radio and gave us an initial assignment of fire attack. And I confirmed the assignment with my lieutenant.
A lot of times we're able to split our crew. Stan and Scott were our drivers. It ended up being me and Johnny and Cunningham getting together, stretching the hose for fire attack.
And when I got assigned fire attack with them, I knew I was going to be with Engineer Harbin and Firefighter Reed on the hose line. You walk in through the enclosed breezeway and there's apartments on either side of the hallway.
At that point, I went ahead and grabbed my SCBA out of the compartment, my thermal imager, and a pipe pole. And we walked down to the breezeway. And I was met by an occupant who was saying that she's still in there, she's still in there. And I wasn't sure who he was talking about, but I just took it to mean that there was a potential victim inside.
Truck 19 and fire attack offer. Go ahead and send the water. Start the line. Truck 19 command making entry through the apartment door. Fire apartment, lower floor.
It was still pretty clear in the breezeway, but I was already fully packed out. Everyone that came in was.
Firefighter Reed helped me stretch the line as I got the coupling to the front door, and he handed me the nozzle.
We in Cobb do something called a hook and look, which means you open the door, you hook your feet on the door frame, and you reach in as far as you can. I distinctly remember smoke being down to the floor, thick black smoke down to the floor. And I pressed my helmet against the ground and still could only see about maybe 2 or 3 feet in front of me. So I reached as far as I could in, swept with my hands, felt a wall to my left and a couch to my right, and still thinking at this time that the fire is in the living room. I'm feeling pretty confident that we're going to go in just a couple of feet, find some fire and put it out. So we get water on the line, and Cunningham is on the nozzle. I was behind him, helping him as his backup firefighter, and Johnny Harbin was behind me with the TIC.
At that point, I saw that the line was already brought in, ready to go, and flaked out behind us. The stream was checked, and we opened the door and made entry.
So as soon as the water got charged through the line, I opened the door and cracked the bell and aimed it towards the 3/4 corner, and then shut it and made my way into the room.
We didn't really talk about, as a crew, where we were going to go.
Initially, we went right-hand search pattern and felt that couch on our right side. As we made our way into the 3/4 corner, there was a TV. I remember putting my hand on the TV and kind of pushing it over.
So we got zero visibility. I can feel more and more heat to my left.
The nozzle got caught in some type of baby jumping set. I opened it, shut it real quick, and then me and firefighter Reed untangled the nozzle.
I called to back out.
Not making progress. It's getting hotter. Johnny tells us to back out. So we're probably 12 feet from the door we came in.
And very quickly, it seemed like we were getting caught up on furniture, and that the heat banking down from above me just felt so much more intense than what I expected. I kept my hand on what I presumed to be the kitchen wall pretty much during the whole incident.
I opened the nozzle one more time and shut it before Engineer Harbin made the call to recall us back to the front door to regroup.
But when we get out there, it's smoke down to the floor, black smoke down to the floor in the breezeway. I thought we were going to get a little bit of a break. It was not a break at all.
And that's when I was calling out for Stan. When I saw the two black helmets walking in ahead of me when we first made entry, I thought it was Ben Reed and Stan Ward. As soon as I realized that Robbie was with us, I immediately got more nervous because of the fact that I couldn't seem to distinguish where the heat was coming from, and now I didn't know where one of my closest friends was. It just seemed like every time we tried to make progress, we couldn't.
Engine 5 on scene.
Engine 5, I'll need you to be on deck. Engine 55, you should be fire tank 2 for the second line on engine 19.
We pulled up on scene. Command told us to come up on deck, so we grabbed our tools, the rip bag. Even from where we were, we could see the fire just blowing out of the bedroom window.
We're still en route. I was the acting BC. Engine 5 gets on scene. They were assigned to be on deck. Engine 3 is assigned to go do search and rescue and evac of the apartments that surround the fire unit.
Thank you, Reed.
Tell you to, go ahead.
I'll be on scene, heading my way. I'll make my way to engine 19. With commanded.
10-4.
As I walked up there, I'm now seeing the structure, the apartment complex. It's an older style apartment complex. It's a closed breezeway. Now things are starting to come together. The fire's obviously grown. It's lapping up the siding now. First thing we do is we get a transfer of command. Squad 55 is helping water supply. Engine 55 pulled a second line, but they haven't got permanent water, which was probably about 200 or 300 feet away from where the engine is.
Battalion Chief will take command from House 5, Truck 19. Would you have working fire, heavy fire from the first floor?
Take command. I go ahead and give hey, we're in offensive mode. This is the way we're going to be operating. But that was very brief. Not as detailed as I probably could have made it for everybody else on scene. At the same time, though, not realizing how long Truck 19 with the firefighter from Engine 19 has been working in there, I'm letting them work. I knew we had to have been close because that window that had fire coming out of it was just maybe 20 feet to the right of the door we came in from. So we decided to make that second push. I instructed Robbie at that point to just point the nozzle into the doorway and open it up. Just cool the whole apartment down as best we can before we go in.
So we open the line and Engineer Harbin's got the tick, and we're trying to look at the tick to see any form of layout or fire.
As soon as we got back in the heat, the camera really wasn't offering much information. It just, the screen kind of went like a light grayish color. A couple times while we were in there for that second push, I would just stand up from a crouched position a little bit and just see how long I could hold my hand up high. And beyond about shoulder height, I couldn't stand to have my hand there for more than 3 or 4 seconds.
We went left-hand search, and I followed that wall until I hit the dining room, where I found the corner of the hallway, and I heard another call for the nozzle to be opened up. I opened it, flowed for a couple seconds, shut it down.
As we came in that second time, I kept my hand on the left-hand wall, what I presumed to be a kitchen counter. Once we reached that point where the kitchen and the hallway and the living room all met up. Robbie went on ahead, and I heard Ben off to my right, slightly in front of me.
Minutes go by, we're not making any progress. We're yelling at Cunningham to open the nozzle because we're really hot at this point. And he would open it up and shut it down.
Every time I would flow the nozzle, I wasn't able to hear my guys talking to me, so I would shut it down. I continued to crawl in, and I found a hallway on my left-hand side.
So I'm calling out to Ben, and he's calling back to me saying, "Where are you?" And I said, "Hey, we need to back out."
I turn around and walk towards the door, and I run into the couch. So I back up, I go to the right where I think the door is going to be again, and I hit the couch again. And that third time when I hit the couch, it was complete disorientation.
Every time I would continue crawling down that hall, I'd get further and further away from Engineer Harbin and Firefighter Reed. They were getting a little bit more faint. I couldn't hear them as well.
We're probably starting to burn at this point. And Johnny's yelling, "Get out, get out." And I'm, "Johnny, where's the door?" And he's like, "What do you mean, where's the door?" He's like, "Come over here to me." So I crawl over to Johnny. Every movement that I'm making feels like it's burning my skin a little bit more. I reach in front of me where I think that he's pointing, and I feel a door frame. He was pointing towards the door, and here it is. And I reach in and I hit the back wall. I'm like, crap, this is a closet. So I'm thinking Johnny is disoriented too.
And at that point, I was like, we've got to get back outside and do a head count. This is starting to freak me out. So I just started banging on that wall, that little half wall, screaming as loud as I could, telling him to get the heck out. And that's the point where I heard them screaming my name.
I heard Engineer Harbin, and I thought he was talking to just Firefighter Reed at that time.
We hear Cunningham yelling, and now he's far away from us. Each movement feels like it's burning my arms and my back even more. I remember thinking I can just follow the hose out. Cunningham is on the other end of that hose. If I just follow this hose out, he's still in there.
I don't know if I hit a piece of furniture or if I hit Ben, but my helmet got knocked off. So I threw my pike pole down and dropped down and frantically tried to get my gear back in place and back in order. In the process of doing that, I came off of that wall that I had been so dedicated to this whole time. And I didn't know where the wall was anymore. Now I'm starting to think, why is this fire still growing? So my face-to-face to Engine 55 was, hey, when you get water, hit the fire on the side of that building. And it took a little bit longer to get water. I'm looking at the building, and from the entry point to where the room is 20 feet or so. And I'm thinking again, shouldn't they be there by now? And now I have to address, hey, why isn't that happening? And by that time, permanent water, Engine 55 had water to them. They started hitting the siding. Then they start to move to the window.
I continued my way down that hallway. I fell into a bathroom, pushed forward a little bit more. I fell into a closet, crawling, pulling the hose as hard as I could. Every time I would pull it, I'd fall over. Well, as I fell into the master bedroom, I sat up, and that's when I saw the glow of fire in that bedroom. As I made the fire, I started yelling out.
I didn't know what was happening inside or out. All I knew is I was in physical pain at that point. My shoulders and my neck and my wrists were starting to burn. And the guys were screaming. Everybody was hurting.
I heard Cunningham yelling. I'm thinking he's way further in the apartment than I am. I'm burning, so he's bad. I'm listening to him burn alive.
I was starting to get pretty scared. I didn't really know what to do at that point. I thought that I always had another plan to handle something, but at that point I felt like I was out of options. Tried to get as close to the ground as I could, and I called a mayday. A couple of us had screamed to Robbie to open the nozzle just to try to get some relief.
Just hearing Johnny call that mayday, that's something I wasn't prepared to hear. So I dropped the nozzle and headed back down that hall towards them because I didn't know what was going on.
He said, I don't have it, because he had left his nozzle and came back to us when he heard the panic in my voice. And that's when I was like, oh, we're really in trouble now.
We met up in that intersection of the hallway, trying to find the hose line again. I felt Engineer Harbin and Firefighter Reed laying down next to me.
No thermal imaging camera. We're lost. We're burning. And our last thing that we felt like we had to save ourselves is now gone. The nozzle's gone. I'm crouched down on the floor of this apartment, thinking to myself, just minutes ago, I was laying in a warm bed at the fire station. How did I don't even know how I got in this situation. And now I can't get out.
And I was scared that it was too late. I thought for sure it was too late. So radio acknowledged my mayday and the alert tones went off.
James, you the mayday. What's your name? Location. Unfortunately, I hear mayday, mayday, mayday. This is somebody that is my friend. This is somebody I've worked with. It still gives me the chills. And so I acknowledged it. As soon as the mayday happened, back up, Engine 5 was ready to go, and I sent them in right away. I'm clear, Harbin. We got taking the front door to you right now.
The mayday was a whole new kind of adrenaline dump that we've not experienced in our department in the last 15 years. You practice maydays and everything like that, and you talk about them and stuff like that. But when it's your friends that are in there, it's a little different. And you could tell in his voice that this was real. The mayday was called. So I turned around and I looked at my crew, and all I really said was, "That's us." And then we started walking. And as we were walking, we clipped in. Didn't know really what to expect, if they were trapped or injured or anything like that. I did not think about so much about losing them, because my focus was getting to them. Ultimately that's in somebody else's hands, according to my belief, but I was going to do everything I could to make sure that we would not lose them.
Fire attack. I got 4 personnel in the fire department.
Just worried about what was going to happen. So for me, Ben's got a couple kids. For Robbie, I cannot believe I got us in this situation and I was unable to get us out.
It was like I was almost like an out of body experience. And I was looking down at myself, laying on the floor burning, thinking I wasn't getting out of that. And I remember thinking that was it. I remember thinking about my kids.
Followed the lines in. We made maybe 2 steps in before the heat and the visibility made it where we had to go down.
After the mayday went out. It just seemed like very little time went by, and I heard more people in there with us.
As I was sitting there on my knees looking around, I remember seeing a small faint light. About the same time I saw that light, Engineer Murphy came into my line of sight.
All of a sudden, the apartment was cooler. I could see some light, and somebody grabs me, is over top of me. I can see their coat light and says, "Hey, we're with you now. Follow me."
I heard someone say, "Hey, this is Engine 5. We've got you. We've got your whole crew. You're okay. The exit's right this way."
And the patio door that I had previously seen the radiant light of the trucks had opened up.
And it let all that hot smoke and everything out. They're coming out.
There was a lot of things happening all at once. It wasn't just us going in there. You had another crew from the outside that was forcing the patio door. And also Marietta was still flowing in that window.
I convinced myself that I had waited too late to call the mayday, but it just felt so much better in there all of a sudden. And I believe it was Engine 5 and Murphy helped me stand up, get me on my feet, and we walked out.
I followed Engineer Murphy out of the apartment with Firefighter Reed and Engineer Harbin behind me, confirming that there was only 3 of us inside.
They came out of the front of the apartment and they're walking out. And so there was a relief there. They looked in bad shape, but there was a relief because they're walking out. We're not dragging firefighters out.
I remember looking back, and Johnny and Cunningham were still on the porch, and I'm like, maybe we're going back in now. Like, we're good now. Maybe we're going back in. Like, do I take my helmet off and stuff? And then my hands start hurting.
When we came out, our gear was just off-gassing. And we went in with brown turnout gear, came out with black turnout gear. We jumped over the barrier and started taking our gear off.
I was already on the other side of the little balcony porch area railing, and I was walking up in front of truck 19, stripping my gear off just to have a moment. I remember my wrist hurt more than anything. But when I peeled my jacket off, some skin came with it, and I noticed that this area right here on my wrist was swollen, and that some of the skin was kind of hanging off, and it looked kind of raw, but it was pretty painful.
I didn't realize that I was burned on scene. I felt a little sting in my arm, but I didn't know if that was from just pulling the hose or whatever. I ended up coming out with 1st-degree burns.
So I take my gloves off, and my hands are blistered. I had 2nd-degree burns on my hands, and just basically 1st-degree on my arms and on my back.
Ben and I were seen at Cobb Hospital, and then within a couple of hours, Robbie went in his own pickup truck and was seen at Cobb Hospital as well and treated for his burns. And that's when it really sunk in.
I remember taking my Halligan and just throwing it across the parking lot in anger because I thought that I had caused what happened.
So you're crawling around, you get lost in there. It's a weird sense of how fast that happened. It felt like it happened like that, but we were in there for about 10 minutes.
I think most of us at the station have at some point or another blamed ourselves entirely. But this incident has taught me more than ever the importance of what some of my mentors have called taking a tactical pause. I wish I had slowed down just enough to communicate how it felt like the conditions were getting worse, just to get some feedback from the outside, and making sure that if you're going to make a decision that you announce it and then make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Be prepared for the worst thing. We train for it, but sometimes we go to these incidents, we don't think about it. I didn't until that day.
Going into it, I thought this was going to be a pretty cut and dry fire. So never assume anything. A lot of times we have people that get injured on something that you think would be routine, but really in this job, nothing's really routine, is it? And if you are assigned to that RIP position or on deck position, whatever your department uses, take it seriously. Be ready to just clip in and go in, because every second